Hi everyone, today's lesson is a Geometry Chapter 2 review for upcoming quiz that is this week. So let's get started with our review. First questions, given that BA is parallel to DC, so that means this line is parallel to that line. Identify the supplementary same side interior angles, so possibly more than one. When it's saying same side interior, those are angles that are inside of the parallel line. So for example, if I had parallel lines cut by a transversal like I do right here, anything on the inside, same side, would be considered same side interior angles. So for this, anything inside, interior being inside. So I'm looking at angle 5 and 7. So so we'll just say angle 5 and 7. I'm just going to write them down. So angle 5 and angle 7 are same side interior angles. You could also say same side interior angles might be 1, but also 6 plus 7 because of this right here transversal, right? So I've got angle 1 and angle 6 and angle 7, which add up, right, to be a same side interior. Additionally, on the other side of 5 and 7 is 2, and these two, I think that says 6 and 11. And then, so angle 2 and angles 6 and 11. So both of those also would be same side interior. But if you had only one choice, which is the obvious choice for same side interior angles, that would just be 5 and 7. For this problem, it says given BA is parallel again to BA is parallel to DC, which are congruent corresponding angles. Now, corresponding angles, remember, lie either on top on both sides or on bottom on both sides. So that might be angle 4 and angle 7. So we'll say angle 4 and angle 7. We could say angle 5 down here, but also these two would add up to be that. So that would be angle 5 and angle 8 plus angle 9. On the other side of corresponding, let's see, we could say 3 and 6 and 6, is that 5 or 6? That's 6. So we could say angle 3 and angles 6 plus angle 11, or you could just say 2 and 10. So angle 2 and angle 10. Now, just a note, we have two transversals here, which basically means that in addition to these ones that work with this transversal right here, there's this transversal also. And I could say this value here, because of my parallel lines, right? That one and that one cut by this transversal. I could say angle 8 and angle 1. So angle 1 and angle 8. Additionally, I could say, let's see, that looks like it for that. All right, so for this one, it says, given the parallel lines below, name angles 1 and 5. So angle 1 and angle 5, how they're both on top of the parallel lines, we call those corresponding angles. And all corresponding angles are congruent. If the lines are parallel, by the way. They're not always congruent, right? Because if my lines aren't parallel, but I still have a transversal, I can technically have corresponding angles. It's just that they're not congruent. Okay, so yeah, corresponding angles are not always congruent. Neither are any of the angles unless you have parallel lines. This one is asking me to find, given the parallel lines, name angles 3 and 7. Well, 2 and 7 are alternate exterior angles, and those are congruent. 2 would be congruent to 4. So let's just put a value there, okay? Let's just put a value there. Let's say that they want to know about 3 and 7. Well, I know 7 is congruent to 6, right? Because those are vertical angles. 3 is not congruent to 6. So I would put like double bar or single bar. So like 7, single bar, congruent to 6, vertical angles. But 3 is not congruent to 6 because those are what we call same side interior angles. And same side interior angles are always supplementary. And what that means is that they add up to 180 degrees. So they are definitely supplementary. A rectangle has a base of root 2. So here's my root 2. And a diagonal of root 7. So here's root 7. What's the area? Now keep in mind, this is a rectangle. Rectangle's area, and we've already talked about this, but rectangle's area of a rectangle where we know the base and the height are perpendicular, the formula is base times height. I do have the base, right? So I do have root 2, but I still have to multiply by my height, but I actually don't have that value, but I can use Pythagorean theorem and say the square root of 2, or 2 squared, plus, we'll just call that side x squared is equal to the square root of 7 squared. And so square root of 2 squared is 2, plus x squared is equal to 7. So x squared is equal to 5. So that means that x equals the square root of 5. So this value here on the side is actually the square root of 5 right here. Okay, so base times height, my base and my height are perpendicular because of the little there, and therefore root 2 times root 5. And because we're in inches, right, it's inches times inches, so this is going to be inches squared. Now remember the rule for multiplying numbers and roots. Numbers get multiplied with numbers, which there aren't any, well, I mean, unless you count the ones in front, but that's just one. Roots get multiplied by roots, so root 2 times root 5 is root 10. So the area of this rectangle is root 10 inches squared. This trapezoid is isosceles, which means two sides are congruent. I have bases of 8 and 16, and I have a leg length of 8, which basically means I may have to find the height, which was not given. So again, the area of a trapezoid is going to be height divided by 2 times the sum of the bases, so base 1 plus base 2. And so the area for this shape, I don't have the height yet, but I'm going to put in all the other pieces of information that I have. My bases are going to be this 8, top plus 16, so we have base 1 up on top plus base 2. And then I have to take this value and divide by 2. So I don't know what the height is, but I do know that this is 8, right? And if this is 8 and this whole length is 16, that means the leftover is 8. So that if I split this up, and I can split this up because it's an isosceles triangle, remember? Isosceles trapezoid, which means that it's symmetrical, so that I can split this up and both of the triangles on both sides are going to be congruent. So just again, I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem to find that height. So in order to do that, I'm going to go height squared plus 4 squared is equal to 8 squared. So my height squared, leg plus leg, that's the Pythagorean theorem, h squared plus 4 squared equals my hypotenuse squared. The hypotenuse, by the way, always opposite the right angle. So we have plus 16 equals 64. So height squared equals 64 minus 16. I'm going to use my calculator. I know. I could just subtract that. Oops. 64 minus 16 is 48. So I've got the square root of 48. Now remember, I am going to take the square root on both sides. So I've got my height equals the square root of 48. Do not leave that like that. That is definitely reducible. Think perfect squares. So the biggest perfect square that you know that can go into the square root of 48 is going to actually be 16 times 3. And the square root of 16 is 4. So that's 4 root 3. So my height is 4 root 3. So this value is 4 root 3. So this value in my formula right there is 4 root 3. So now 8 plus 16, well, that's just 24, times 4 root 3 over 2. Now, this is up to you. You can decide to go divide 2 into 4 or 2 into 24, but you only do it once. It's not like a distributive kind of thing. You only do that when you're multiplying. But this right here, 2 into 24. So that, I'm just going to say that is 12. 12 times 4, that's 48, root 3. And it looks like my lengths are not labeled. So therefore, I'm going to go with units squared. Always label it. If there's no units listed, then you just call it units squared. The measure of the complement of an angle is 5 times the measure of that angle. So here's the thing with this. Complementary angles add up to be 90 degrees, right? 90 degrees. So that means that if one of my angles is x, then my other angle is going to be 90 minus that value. That's the complement, okay? And so when I say the measure of the complement, that's 90 minus x. So they're saying 90 minus x is means equals 5 times, so 5 times something, the measure of that angle. So that's it. So we're just going to work this out, add x to both sides, move that over. So I'm going to add x. I get 90 is equal to 6x. I get x equals 90 divided by 6. And what is that? 90 divided by 6 is 15 again. So in this problem, x is 15, but x is actually the angle, right? So depending on what they're asking me is what is the larger of the two angles. So be careful, right, what they're asking. So if they're asking me for the larger of the two angles, this is 15, right? So I got to go 90 minus 15, and that's 75. So the other angle is 90 minus 15, which is 75 degrees. So which one is the larger? That's 75 degrees. And in this case, it's the complement. In the next problem, it says if two complementary angles, here's my two complementary, if two angles are complementary to the same angle, meaning if this is, let's say this is 20 degrees and this is 70, those are complementary angles because they add up to be 180, or sorry, they add up to be 90. It says if two angles are complementary to the same angle, that means then this angle also is complementary to that. Then these two angles must be, well, they must be the same angle, so we'll say congruent to each other. This question says, what is the best reason for this statement? If the measure of angle P equals 90 degrees, then P, angle P, is a right angle. Well, this is just very simply the definition of a right angle. And so what you have to understand with these kinds of problems right here, there's other, definitely, we're not adding angles. That's like angle addition postulate. We're not adding angles. We're not talking about complementary angles. We're just talking about a right angle. And when you're saying that angle is equal to 90 degrees, that would be the definition of a right angle. If I said two supplementary angles add up to be 180 degrees, that would be the definition of supplementary angles. So that kind of thing. M is the midpoint of YZ. So here's M. I'm just going to put that in there. Remember, a midpoint divides segments into two equal parts. So if M is the midpoint and YM is R plus 3, so we're going to call this R plus 3, and YZ, that's this whole length, is 3R minus 1, 3R minus 1. Find MZ. So we want this little length right here. Well, what we do know is that this is the midpoint. And the midpoint divides a segment into two equal parts, which means that if this is R plus 3, this is also R plus 3 because they're two equal parts. Now, I could either set them equal to each other, right? Or I could, if I was given that, but I wasn't. I was given the whole length. which basically means 2 of these, right? So 2r plus 3s is equal to 3r minus 1, which is that whole length. So we've got 2r plus 6 equals 3r minus 1. I'm going to subtract 2r from both sides. I get r on the right. And then I'm going to add 1 to both sides. See right here, I'm going to add 1 to both sides to get rid of this 1. And I get 6 plus 1, which is 7. So that means r is 7. Now, just because you have an answer doesn't mean that you're done, right? You have to read the question. The question says find mz. So mz is this length right here. So I would plug what r is back into my equation, right? So r is 7, so mz, so you would write mz is equal to 7 plus 3, which is 10. So the next question said EC, ray EC. This is ray EC. That's this. I'm going to highlight that so you guys can see that. This is ray EC. Okay? So ray EC. Now you have to understand also what a ray does. An array actually cuts a segment in half, or it cuts an angle in half. Okay, so it cuts whatever it is in half. That's what bisects mean. So it cuts BED. So B, right? Start here. The middle letter is the vertex. That's the vertex. So BED. That's my angle, right? And it cuts it in half, which means that this angle is equal to that angle. That's what it tells you. Now, it also says that if the measure of angle 1 is x minus 5, so I need to see where that is. So that's x minus 5. So this little angle in here is x minus 5. And then it says the measure of angle 3 is 2x plus 10, which is 2x plus 10. There's 2x plus 10. Now, it says solve for x. Now, by knowing that BC is a ray that cut this angle in half, that means that it cuts it into two congruent parts. So if this is 2x plus 10, so is this. And this being actually, if you look all the way around like this, that's an actual line, which means that this plus that, right? All three of those angles add up to be 180. So x minus 5 plus 2x plus 10 plus 2x plus 10. And I could have just said 2 times 2x plus 10 equals 180 degrees. How many x's do I have? I have 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 x's. I have 10 plus 10 is 20. 20 minus 5 is 15. And that equals 180. And so I'm going to use my calculator. And I'm going to say 180 minus 15 is 165. So we have 5x equals 165. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And I get x is equal to 33. Now, again, I found x, yes. But please be careful, because sometimes I'm not going to ask you what x is. I'm going to ask you what the values of the angles are. And if that's the case, we know, right, that, again, this angle is x minus 5. So 33, right, 33 minus 5 is 28. And so this angle would be 28. And then if I took away 180 from that, I get 152, which means this angle, these two angles are 152. So meaning divide that by 2 is 76. But also keep in mind that I could have also plugged in 33 into 2 times 33, add 10, because that's what, 66 plus 10, which is 76, which is that angle. And then both of those are the same. The next kind of question is going to ask you for the value of y. Okay, so heads up, right? We know these angles, bow tie angles, those are vertical. So that means that they equal each other. I can say that 6x minus 20 is equal to 3x plus 10. And that's what I would actually do to start this problem. However, I want to give you a heads up, because I know some of you guys are going to look at this and you're going to say, well, there's a line. I'm going to add those two up. 6x minus 20 plus 4y add 8 equals 180. But just keep in mind that if you did that, right, 6x plus, look at, you've got two unknowns, right? You've got y and x. And if you're solving for two unknowns, then you need two equations. And right, we only have one. So you got to be careful with that. So realistically, you need to look for something that has the same value if you can. And if you can't, then you would actually need two equations. All right, so we know that 6x minus 20 equals 3x plus 10 because those are vertical angles. And I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. And that's going to be 3x minus 20 equals 10. And then I'm going to add 20 to both sides. And I get 3x is equal to 30. So x equals 10. Okay, we found x. And you better believe that on A, B, C, D, or whatever the answers are, 10 is going to be an answer choice. But 10 is not my answer because read the question. The question said, what's y? So now I got to go back and say, okay, what do I do here? 3x plus 10, so that x is 10. So 3 times 10 is 30. 30 plus 10 is 40. So this angle right here is 40. And so is this, right? Which means that this big angle over here, right, that whole thing, that's a line. And if this is 40, that makes that 140. And so we actually did all of this so that I could find 140. Because when I have that, I know this angle here is congruent to this angle here. Because those are also vertical angles. So you would say 4y plus 8 is equal to 140. Subtract. So what is that, 132? So 140 minus 8 is 132. Divide that by 4, and I get 33. I think that's right. So therefore, y equals 33. So you subtract 8, I got 132, and then I divided by 4. And I did that right. Okay, y equals 33. So be careful. What are they asking you for? Okay. The next question is saying, if the measures of two supplementary angles are x plus 10 and x minus 20. So supplementary angles, I drew the straight line because I know supplementary angles add up to be 180. So if this is x plus 10 and this is x minus 20, then the sum of those two angles is going to be 180. Now don't get sidetracked by what the question is. It's saying, what's the smaller angle? I'm not actually going to worry about that until I find x. Because once I find x, I can plug those values back into my equation and then find the smaller angle. All right, so I'm going to say x plus 10 plus x minus 20 adds up to be 180. So I've got 2x, and then 10 minus 20 is negative 10, is 180. Add 10, so I've got 2x equals 190. I'm going to divide by 2, right? 190 divided by 2. And what is that? 95. I know I'm being lazy about that, using my calculator. Sorry. So x is 95. So now I want you to plug the values in. X is 95. So we've got 95 add 10. So that's 105. And then 95 minus 20 is 75. So they want to know which is the smaller angle. So you would say the measure of the smaller, right, angle is equal to 75 degrees. And then if I asked you for the supplement, right, then you could just subtract 75 from 180 and you get 105. For this problem, I'm asking you a couple of things. What am I saying? I'm saying these are parallel, all right, parallel lines. EH is a transversal, okay. The size of EFB is this angle right here. Hold on one sec. Pause. So we know that because these are parallel lines cut by a transversal, that this angle here and this angle, those are congruent by vertical angles, right? So that makes this 2x minus 100. Now, note to self, these are two angles on the inside of my parallel lines, right? So those are interior angles. Now, the only two interior angles that we actually know are alternate interior angles. Are these on alternate sides? No. So then if they're not alternate interior angles, then they're same side interior angles, which mean that they are supplementary, which means that 2x minus 100 plus x plus 52 is equal to 180. So what is that? 3 x's, and then I've got 3 x's. I've got negative 100 plus 52 is negative 48, and that equals 180. I'm going to add 48 to both sides. So I'm going to go 180 plus 48, and I get 228. 228, and then to get x by itself, I'm going to take 228 and divide by 3, and now I get x is equal to 76. Now, what are they asking me? Be very careful, because like I said, in my answer sheet, I'm going to have some distractors, right? X is 76. That's going to be one of my first distractors, because actually I'm not asking for x. I'm asking for angle EFB, which is this angle up here, right? I'm having trouble. Sorry. EFB. So EFB, I'm asking for this angle right here. So that means that I need to plug in x into that equation up there. So 2 times 76, subtract 100. So 2 times 76 is 152, subtract 100, yeah, is 52. And so therefore, this angle right here would just be, this is how you would write it, the measure of angle EFB is equal to 52 degrees. And so that's, they want that angle specifically, and you have to give the angle that they actually want, okay? The next problem says, given these two parallel lines, find the value of x and all these angles. Okay, so first let's find x. What we know is that we have two parallel lines cut by a transversal, and therefore these angles inside are not congruent because they're both on the same side and inside. So that means that they're supplementary. So you're going to go x plus 30 plus 4x equals 180. So that's going to be 5x plus 30 equals 180. 5x equals 150, right? Subtract 30 from both sides, and then x equals 30. So yes, we found x, but now not only do I need to find x, but I have to find the values of my other angles. And so plug that in. So the first one, 4 times 30. When you see the number next to the letter, right, that means multiply. So we're saying 4 times 30, which is 120. So this angle right here is 120. And then this is 30 plus 30, which is 60. So we know that, and you have to write it like this. You would write this on the test if you were like in person. We would write the measure of angle BAC, which is that angle right there. The measure of angle BAC, see that? The measure of angle BAC is 30 plus 30, well, 60 degrees. And then the measure of angle ACD is equal to 4 times 30, which is 120. And then you're done, because we also found x. All right, this one is saying, refer to this figure below. We know that angle 1 is 9x minus 7. And we know that angle 2 is 6x plus 11. Now, note to self, what kind of angles are these? These angles right here are what we call vertical angles. We don't need parallel lines. We don't need a transversal. They're just any angles that cross. Those are vertical angles, the opposite sides, right? Okay, so we just have to set them equal to each other. So we go 9x minus 7 equals 6x plus 11. Subtract 6x, I get 3x. I'm going to add 7 to both sides. I get 3x equals 18, x equals 6. Now, okay, did it ask me for x? Yeah. It said, up here, it said find the value of x and the measure of angle 1. Now, so x is 6. Angle 1, you should know, is the same value as angle 2, right? Okay, so we've got 9 times 6, 54, minus 7. So what's 54 subtract 7, right? That's 47. And so this angle here is 47. Now note, so is angle 2. Both of these angles are the same. And I could have also plugged in 6 up here and gone 6 times 6, add 11. So that would have been 36 plus 11, also 47, right? So keep in mind that once you have these values, like that's 47 and that's 47 here, I might also put in another angle here or here and say, hey, not only do I want angle 1, or I want also angle 3. So how would I find angle 3 if I know that's 47 and that's 47? To find angle 3, that is equal to that, which isn't helpful because there's no value there. But I do know that this angle plus this angle equals 180. So if I go 180 minus 47 is 133, this angle right here is the same thing as angle 3, 133. And that's, I mean, obviously that's not the question that I asked, but I'm just saying on the test, I might mix it up like that and ask you for a different angle. The key is to make sure that you are reading each of the questions and seeing exactly what they want. For this problem here, I'm telling you that these are complementary angles, which in your head, while you're reading, you should recognize that those add up to be 90 degrees. Your job is to find the value of x and the smallest angle. Now, if these are complementary angles, then their sum is equal to 90, which means that 7x minus 15 plus 3x add 55 equals 90. So we've got 3 and 7, 10x, 55, 45, 40. That's 40, right? Negative 15 plus 55. So that's 40. And so if I subtract 40 from both sides, 90 minus 40 is 50. So x equals 5. Now, I found x, but the question not only did it ask me to find x, but it also asked me to find the angles. So this angle up top is going to be 7 times 5 minus 15. And this angle on the bottom is going to be 3 times 5 add 55. So 3 times 5 is 15. If I add 55 to that, right, 0, 1, 5, 6, 7, that's 70. And so I know that this little angle down here is 70. 35 minus 15 is 20. So I know that angle is 20. So when they ask me for x, 5, and the smallest angle, you have to choose which one is the smallest. So the smallest angle in this problem would be equal to 20 degrees. For this problem, which is actually the last problem, it's telling you that you have parallel lines and that 8 is 2x minus 3 and 7 is 71. So we know that's 71 and we know this is 2x minus 3. And what you need to remember is that these angles here are alternate interior angles. What that means is that they are congruent. So I can say that 2x minus 3 equals 71. I'm going to add 3 to both sides, and I'm going to get 2x is equal to 74. I'm going to divide 74 by 2, okay, and I get 3 here, 1 here, 37, so I get x is equal to 37. Now note that that's not a degree, right? I'm not actually finding the degree because we know the degree. We know that both of these angles are 71. We already know that. And so what this is just a value. So that's just x is equal to 37. We're done. Now, your quiz is tomorrow or the very next day that I see you. So please study, not only study this, but study everything that we've done so far. All the other videos that are on YouTube under Geometry CPM. Look at all of those videos. They will be helpful for you. Thanks for watching, and good luck on your quiz. Right on. Okay.